So, that was a presentation, wasn't it? I've given myself some time to think over PlayStation's 2023 showcase, and now I'm going to discuss it with you. This is going to be in chronological order. I'm not going to go through every game, just the ones I had thoughts on, but needless to say, everything's fair game. Oh, would you look at that, what a beautiful segue. The first game shown off was Fairgames. This is the new IP from Haven Studio that I predicted would be an MMO, but it's actually a competitive heist shooter. In many ways, this trailer really set the expectation for the showcase, and there will be a lot more of it. A lot of these CGI sort of cinematic trailers that, in my opinion, didn't really say much about the game. When it came to Fairgames, you know, it's pretty obvious the game would be a shooter, that there'd be multiplayer elements, that there'd be, you know, a big heist focus. But this trailer just did nothing for me. There were a bunch of like neon elements. It feels like that's the new thing with like the recent Far Cries and Rage, and it just does nothing for me. And this trailer, frankly, just did nothing for me. This game is likely years away, but in my opinion, not a great way to start off the showcase. I would like to have seen some gameplay. I would have liked to have had some details on the story. We're just gonna have to wait probably at least a year, I'd imagine, before Haven shares anything else. After that, we had actually a pretty cool looking game from EA, Immortals of Aveum. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This kind of gave me Bioshock vibes with the way the main protagonist was using powers, shooting guns out of his hand. Really seemed quite interesting, and it comes out in July. Now, keeping it rolling, we had our first look at Ghost Runner 2, and this looked very good to me. It seems like they're adding some vehicle elements. I don't believe they were in the first game. I haven't played the first game, but it's something that's been on my radar. I do actually have it through PS Plus. It was a PS Plus title a little bit ago. I really like the aesthetic. I'm curious to see where they go with the story. This is a really good looking sequel to a game that was well received, and it's coming out this year. Probably my favorite game of the show was showcased after Ghost Runner, Phantom Blade Zero. This is giving me a lot of Dark Souls Sekiro vibes. The combat looks super slick, the swordplay seems super duper fun, and it's got this kung fu punk style according to the developers. That semi-open world, this just ticked all the boxes for me. It looks absolutely gorgeous. No date yet, but I really like the potential with this one. I also got some Xenoblade vibes from this because your main character only lives, forget this, 66 days. Now, what I really liked about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was how it was able to use one of its main story points, the fact that the characters only lived for 10 years, really to its advantage, and kind of intertwined it with both the gameplay and the story. I think it's a really interesting concept that if they pull it off in Phantom Blade Zero, can really make for some fascinating world building and some great character development. Now, whether this really integrates that into the gameplay, maybe something like Sifu, where every time you die, you age a bit, maybe your power changes, that would be interesting to see. I would be surprised if it does that, if they're like limited lives, because of the nature of how difficult these types of games are. But needless to say, I'm really excited for this. Both this and Black Myth Wukong are just really interesting looking Souls-likes on the horizon. Following Phantom Blade Zero was Sword of the Sea, a similarly impressive title in my opinion. This is from Giant Squid, the talented individuals who made Abzu and The Pathless, and this is giving me similar vibes to those games. Just a really beautiful art style, very much otherworldly and serene, and I loved every single shot I saw of this game. I'm wicked excited. I also got some Solar Ash vibes just from the way the character appeared to be moving around on the sand. This looked like a day one purchase for me. A similarly impressive looking indie title from another acclaimed developer was Neva. These are from the people who did Grease, which frankly, the main reason I do remember that game is because of its Game Awards presentation when it won the Games for Impact. You had the goose up there with the Muppets.
The award for Games for Impact goes to... No, not geese. Grease! Grease!
But anyhow, this seems to be a really emotional story about loss. And the art style is similarly thought-provoking. really well hand-drawn art that just shines with creativity, just shines with passion. I'm really looking forward to when this game launches. This is another 2024 title. Now this game actually features Callie and Marie. That's right, it's Foamstars. Oh, I'm kidding. But man, the Splatoon vibes are off the charts with this one. This is a multiplayer game from Square Enix that is taking so much from Nintendo's beloved IP. I mean, it's not even funny, but it does look somewhat unique. I do like the art style. I do like what Square Enix is trying to do with here. It appears as though players on each team are trying to fill up the arena with foam, and if you're able to do that, you get an advantage when you're on your own foam. You can actually go faster, it appears. You can surf, which is taken straight out of Splatoon. But this game does look interesting. My main concern, particularly because this is a new IP, is how Square Enix is going to support this. We've had a lot of titles recently, whether it be Ubisoft's Hyperscape or EA's Knockout City, that failed to gain a lot of traction and ultimately shut down after only a few years or less. Square Enix obviously just released Babylon's Fall last year, and that shut down, felt like, within 2 days. This game isn't immediately successful. I'm worried that it could just completely fall off the face of the planet and they could just stop supporting it. And that's kind of the fear when it comes to something like this, where you'll know how long it's going to last. I'm very curious to see what their game plan is for post-launch support, because that is going to mean a lot for a lot of players and how the game performs in the long term. This was neat, although I think I would have liked to have seen more originality, respectfully, because this does just seem like Splatoon just from Square Enix. The Plucky Squire. I cannot say enough good about this game. I think the whole internet pretty much agrees. This game just looks great. Really unique, very, very cool aesthetic it's going for in gameplay style. You're in a book, but then you can actually go into the whole 3D world. This has to be one of the most unique games coming out. This is slated for this year. I would not at all be surprised if it's delayed, but I hope the developers take as long as they need, because this game looks like it could be something really special. And I'm also getting a lot of Link's Awakening vibes. This could really be a gem to come out this year. After the Plucky Squire, we got our first look at Teardown, and instantly, this is another game whose art style stuck out to me. The art style seems to combine almost like Lego with a bit of a Minecraft vibe. I mean, just aesthetically, this looks gorgeous, but we still don't know a lot about it. I do want to look at it more. Is there online play? I'd assume there'd be online play. Is there a story? Is there a single player? What exactly is the mission structure like? I'm curious to see more of this. The developers do seem confident it's coming this year, just judging by the way the PS5 just dropped from the building with like a, whoa, this game's coming this year. At least that's the vibe I got from it. After this, we got another CG trailer, but I think it's a little more excusable just because of what the game is. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. I'll admit, when I saw that triangle, I literally had no clue. It took me hours to figure out this game's title. I had no idea what it was. But yep, Metal Gear Solid 3 is getting a remake. And just judging by some of the images Konami has released online, it looks gorgeous. Now, another question, other than the title, was who exactly is developing this game, and by all indications, it does seem to actually be Konami. They haven't revealed anything like, with Silent Hill they have Bloober Team, but they haven't said they're outsourcing, so I'd assume it's Konami. Jeff Keighley had a really funny tweet asking who the developer was. But I've heard nothing but great things about the series, and this is going to give me a great excuse to play it. Although I'll have something to play beforehand, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1. This combines the first 3 titles. Metal Gear Solid 1 includes the VR missions as well as the special missions, and then 2 and 3 are from the HD collection. This is actually coming this fall. Konami has specified that the original voice actors will be back here in Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake. Indeed, David Hayter is going to reprise his role as Snake alongside his other contemporaries, so I'm sure that'll make a lot of fans happy. So this may be my first exposure to Snake Eater. This was an announcement that did get me excited. I've been wanting to play these games, I haven't really had an ability to, and now I will. I don't have much to say in terms of Final Fantasy XVI other than, my goodness, this game is looking incredible. This was a fantastic launch trailer that made me even more excited just seeing the icon battles. This game just seems to be ticking all the right boxes. and hopefully it's as polished as they say it is. June 22nd, can't come here soon enough. Now we also got our first look at Alan Wake 2. I will be honest, I am surprised they gave this an October release date. I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility this game does not come out this year. I mean, they've said 2023 since it was initially announced at the Game Awards back in 2021, but I don't know, just something about this game is giving me 2024 vibes. But anyhow, we got our first decent look at the game, and it looks interesting. I have not played the original Alan Wake. I know the remaster's out. I do need to go play that. I've heard great things about it. But they are going the full-on survival horror with this. Remedy has confirmed that the game is going to take place across multiple locations in the Pacific Northwest, including Bright Falls, Cauldron Lake, and a town called Watery. I'm curious to see how the game ends up faring. It's been over a decade since its predecessor released. But I think the biggest story to come out of Alan Wake 2 is that it's not getting a physical release. Yeah, this game is only releasing digitally. It's going to be $60, not $70. They're saying they don't want to do physical because they want to keep the price down. I'm shocked because there is still a market for physical games. I mean, you see the PS5 disc edition selling in large numbers. You see a lot of these titles, with limited run, and just generally publishers just keep releasing stuff on discs. So I don't know if I quite understand the decision. I get it's probably, to keep costs down, but I feel like there'd be a lot of people interested in buying this game physically. And you even had THQ Nordic actually go out on Twitter saying they'd be willing to help finance Alan Wake 2. Whether or not they really mean that, well, it's only Twitter. I hope for the people who want a physical edition that they get it. Certainly surprising that they are not releasing a disc form of this. We also got our first look at gameplay for the upcoming Assassin's Creed Mirage that's due out October 12th. This is borrowing or innovating upon the stealth elements from the prior games, not really delving as much into the RPG elements of the prior 3 games. What I'm really hoping with Mirage is that it's a condensed experience. They've said that the main campaign is roughly 15 to 20 hours, more in line with something like Black Flag than Valhalla. If they can make a dense world where everything's quality, right, where it prioritizes quality over quantity, that's what will get me interested in this game. Because the problem with Assassin's Creed, in my opinion, is that there's just way too much content. So much content that I become overwhelmed. It feels like a job. If this game can have a good story, really fun combat, a whimsical world, and it's just well paced, I may pick this up. But I still want to be convinced. I still want to see more of the game. If this is due out in October, we're likely going to see us in a few weeks at the upcoming Ubisoft Forward. Now, another game that stuck out to me was Ultros. This is from Hadokwe, a new game development studio based in Sweden. This is actually their first game. Now, according to the PS blog post, this is an exploration adventure, psychedelic, sci-fi side shooter. That's a lot to digest, but my first sort of instinct when I looked at this game was it seemed like a really, really neat Metroidvania looking game. And just the way the character was moving, the combat, just the art style in general, there's a lot that's going right, it seems to be, for this game. And I'm excited to see more from this. And hopefully it launches on the Switch. I'd love for this game to launch on the Switch, that way I can get it, play it wherever I want. We also had our first look at Dragon's Dogma 2, the sequel to the cult classic from Capcom. Now, for the uninitiated, this was announced back last year, and this is being directed by Devil May Cry director Hideaki Itsuno. We had our first look at combat. There seemed to be a lot of varied attacks. The game certainly looks pretty. I mean, one of the characters literally summoned a meteor from the sky. I mean, pulling Sephiroth over on the Dragon's Dogma universe. A beast even broke a bridge, which that seemed really cool. We still don't know a heck of a lot about this game, and I'm surprised they showed it off when it seems to be quite a ways off. But yeah, it was nice to get a first look at this. Now after this, we had our obligatory burst of PlayStation VR 2 titles. And I'm not gonna lie, this made me feel bad for anyone who shelled out the $550 for a PSVR 2, because there was really nothing here that was exciting. I mean, literally everything shown was a shooter. You had Resident Evil 4 Remake VR mode, which is cool. That's cool, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if that's going to convince anyone. You had a sequel to Arizona Sunshine, which the trailer was certainly funny, but to me it just wasn't the most exciting announcement. And then you had Crossfire, Sierra Squad, and Synap. 2 more shooters, which again is not a bad thing, but it just all looking similar. There wasn't a single title here that even remotely made me want to consider buying a PlayStation VR 2. I just don't know what the trajectory is for this platform. What is Sony going to do to get people to shell out money for a $550 machine when they're not showing must-play titles for it? Again, all due respect to these PlayStation VR 2 titles, how are you going to even get people to develop for this thing if you're not generating excitement for it? This was your opportunity to generate excitement for the platform, and you just put 4 titles near the very end, like we gotta put it in there, we gotta have some representation in terms of our new console, in terms of our new hardware. I just thought it was forgettable. Near the end of the show, we got 2 new first-party reveals, but to me they were simply disappointing. Bungie is working on a new Marathon game. Now, this is not a sequel to the 1994 original or its sequels. This is the first entirely new project out of the studio in over a decade, and it's a sci-fi extraction shooter. You play as these cybernetic mercenaries known as runners. Not ghost runners, but runners. Like, this is another trailer that it just didn't reveal anything. It revealed it was a shooter. The art style looks kind of neat if the CGI translates to the actual game. But tell me what this game's about. Show me gameplay, show me something. And especially considering it's not borrowing a lot of elements, it seems like, from its predecessors, we don't have a clue what this game's about. How am I supposed to be excited for that? I'm very happy for the people who were genuinely hyped by this, but it just does nothing for me. What similarly did nothing for me was Concord. This is from Firewalk Studios, who PlayStation literally acquired last month. And this is a PvP multiplayer first-person shooter coming both to PS5 and PC next year. PlayStation certainly, I'll give them credit where credit's due. They said they wanted more live service titles, and this presentation really cemented, yeah, they're working on that. They're working on that very hard with Fairgame, Concord, and Marathon. But this was about as teasery of a teaser as you can possibly get. There's nothing I can gauge from this trailer other than the fact that maybe the game takes place in space. Now, we had 2 new hardware reveals at the end, and the first one was certainly the most eye-catching, PlayStation Project Q. I couldn't have been the first one that thought of a Wii U gamepad. This is a device that allows you to stream any PlayStation 5 game via remote play. This seems interesting. If the connection's stable, sure, it can work, but this is not something I would buy. I'm wondering how much money this is also going to be, because the screen itself is an 8-inch HD screen. I could see them charging easily $200 or more for this. I don't know how many people that's going to attract. I will give PlayStation credit for the accessibility controller. That's an upcoming piece of hardware that really seems unique and innovative, and making games more accessible to everyone I think is awesome. But Project Q isn't doing it for me, and the earbuds were similarly forgettable. I mean, I think anyone who wants earbuds for the PlayStation has already bought them. And now we get to the end of the show, which presented what was easily the best first party showing of the entire presentation, and that was Marvel's Spider-Man 2. We got a full 10-minute look at this game. What really particularly impressed me about this game showing was its new movement abilities. I always love games where you just feel a terrific sense of locomotion, whether that be with Splatoon or Doom Eternal. Just the sense of moving around is just fun. And Miles is donning a wingsuit, just roaming through the city, just whizzing on by. It felt fun watching the trailer, and I can only imagine how good that feels, not only with the PS5's haptic triggers, but also with the game's audio design as well. The new abilities seem similarly fun, and I really like the ability to switch between both Miles and Peter on a whim. I mean, Insomniac has really truly carried the PlayStation 5 generation to this point, with Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales and Ratchet & Clank really being showcases for the console, Ratchet & Clank in particular, with how it utilized the SSD. And they've already confirmed the loading times are going to be instantaneous between characters. I'm very excited to see what they end up doing with that in regards to the story, what interesting circumstances both characters find themselves in. There's also some interesting story implications in regards to the symbiote We didn't see Venom in this trailer, but we did see him in the first one. How he exactly plays a role remains to be seen. We did not get a date for this. This is still saying fall 2023, but I'm still very confident this game is going to launch this year. Miles Morales didn't have a date confirmed until 2 months prior to its launch. Then God of War Ragnarok, PlayStation's marquee title last holiday season, had its date just dropped over Twitter in July. So really, PlayStation can unveil when this game is launching whenever they want. It's going to sell millions of copies. Its predecessor sold millions of copies. I predicted this game would come out in September. Now I'm starting to get November vibes, just judging by the fact that they did not give a date. But whenever this game launches, I'm sure it's going to do very well. This trailer certainly did get me more excited for the game than I was beforehand. Although, I still do have concerns. They did confirm that there are going to be more explorable burrows this time, but just because the world is larger doesn't mean it's better. I want there to be more interaction. I want the world to feel truly lived in. I don't want to be completely overwhelmed with tasks. How can they innovate the open world? How can they make New York feel unique? And that to me is this game's biggest task, because I'm not worried about the gameplay. I'm not worried about the story. I'm worried about the world itself, because the world's arguably the biggest character when it comes to open world games. And the games that do have the best world, where the world is the main protagonist, are often the best ones. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2, Breath of the Wild, you name it. And now we get to my overall thoughts on the showcase, of which there are many. There were many great games shown over the course of an hour. From Phantom Blade Zero to Sword of the Sea to Ultros to Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta. But my fundamental issue with this showcase was that I'm no more excited for the future of PlayStation than I was 24 hours before I saw this. And I say that because what I was really looking forward to was seeing what upcoming first-party titles would be announced. That is the reason I bought my PlayStation 5. That is the reason I really love the PlayStation 4 generation, because Sony was delivering just incredible title after incredible title. God of War, Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn. Just constant new games. And they were all so much fun. We only got a gameplay look at Spider-Man 2, and the new reveals from Marathon to Concord to Fairgames were CGI trailers that provided no indication, in my opinion, of what the games would be about. More importantly, those titles didn't in any way excite me. In my opinion, this would have been better off being branded as a State of Play. Because State of Plays I don't even think there's been a single big first party reveal in a State of Play to this point. We've seen trailers for Last of Us and Ghost of Tsushima, but I don't think there's been a big reveal. I think if you branded that and had all these games without worrying about being named a showcase where the expectations just skyrocket after the June 2020 and September 2020 presentations in particular, I think you come out of this with what many would describe as a great presentation that over-delivered. By branding it as a showcase and giving it the expectation that you're gonna know more about what the studios that everyone's looking forward to are up to, and you don't show that, I think people are going to be disappointed. This show was disappointing. I really wanted to be excited for what PS5 would have in the future. And now, because this is the showcase for the year. This is not called PlayStation Showcase May 2023. This is PlayStation Showcase 2023. We're not getting one of these until at least next year. So it's probably going to be until at least late next year where the titles that excite me personally, specifically the story-driven single-player adventures, start releasing. And that's disappointing. Or even new IP that brings the industry forward. For now, we know a lot of multiplayer shooters that are on the horizon that, to me, sure, I'll look at them, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But that's just not something that personally excites me. And there's so many of them that they revealed here that there's no way I'll be able to balance all of them at once. This presentation is a consequence of how good the last years of the PlayStation 4 were. We had Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima come out in 2020, the last year of the 8th generation. Because of that, major studios like Naughty Dog and Sucker Punch are now busy spending a lot of resources and a lot of time developing their upcoming titles. And they should take as much time as they want to make those games the best they can be. But until then, I am left concerned about what the future holds for the PlayStation 5. I'm very excited for upcoming third-party games from Final Fantasy XVI to Stellar Blade, and now Phantom Blade Zero. But in terms of first party, I can't help but say that I'm disappointed. And I wish we learned more in this presentation, when it'll probably be another year until we hear a peep from any of their major studios. And again, I feel bad for people who bought a PSVR 2, just expecting more. I don't know how you leave this presentation excited about that hardware in particular. I get it's a long game, but when this is the showcase of the year for PlayStation, what is effectively their E3, I can imagine it'd be disappointing. For those who are excited for new Resident Evil, VR mode, for Crossfire, for Synap, good on you. Good on you. I certainly just wish more was showcased. And now, the ball is in Xbox's court. Xbox really has the opportunity to come out in a few weeks with their summer showcase and just knock the socks off all their competitors and all their players. In my opinion, their upcoming first-party slate actually looks pretty good. Starfield has the potential to be one of the greatest Western RPGs ever made. The Indiana Jones game from Machine Games is right up my alley. Whatever ID does next is going to be on my radar after Doom Eternal is one of the best, if not the best, first-person shooter I've ever played. They have the potential to come out and one-up Sony for the first time in a while. The ball's in Microsoft's court. Will they deliver or not? We'll have to see. But that is going to do it for my thoughts on the PlayStation Showcase for 2023. Let me know if you enjoyed this video in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the presentation. It'd be great to hear your thoughts. Be sure to follow me on social media at TrueMRichardson. Also check out Michael's blog for more gaming related content. Seriously, thank you so much for listening. And until next time, stay well.